Hi, and welcome to Your Prosperity, a podcast series on financial topics including tax, wealth creation, superannuation, lending, audit, and many other things that we deal with here on a regular basis at Prosperity Advisors. As with all financial podcasts, any advice you hear in this is general in nature and not to be relied upon. Please contact us for any specific advice. Hi, and welcome to the podcast. Today I'm here with Michelle Tayler from Marketing Practices. As I mentioned in one of the other podcasts, I'm trying to do a few medico-specific ones, and we've got a few in this series, and this is definitely one of them. So Michelle and I guess, have met many times on webinars and in person, but at different events we're at where we've bumped into each other or been on the same panel twice, I think now. So when we talk at different medical events, which has been fantastic. And if you're a medical practice out there, whether it be dental, GP, specialist, you're looking at marketing, how do we get that exposure? How do we get out there? Michelle's kind of one of the go-to people in this space. So I thought it'd be great to get her on the podcast. So Michelle, welcome. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you so much for having me. It's very exciting. I love talking about this stuff, and there's so much going on right now that, more than happy to give lots of advice here.
Absolutely. And I guess I mentioned earlier, we've been on a few podcasts. I think we've done a GP one and a dental one. We've talked on a few different ones, but it's been really, really good talking with you on those. And you kind of end up running the show because you're good at that and you're great at talking about medical practices and clearly have a passion for it. So really good to have you on. First thing, it's a shorter podcast series. I like little snippets, just a great sort of things out there and tips we can get out for people and what they can do well. What are medical practices doing at the moment? Marketing wise, is it changing over the years? It has to have changed with technology. I know we've talked about this, so I'm leading into it obviously, but it's changed with millennials, it's changed with technology. What are practices doing now when they're trying to market to their patient base?
Yeah, a lot of things are changing right now. You're right. The millennials are now turning 40, and that kind of makes us Gen Xers feel a little bit, oh, really? They're already that old?
Fact check that. Is that right? I'm not sure 40.
They were born in the 80s and 90s, and they were alive during the millennium, and they really have embraced technology because they've grown up with it. So they're really changing the way that they're demanding more things from practices in terms of contactability. You don't want to keep a millennial waiting. They want information at their fingertips, and they've really kind of grown up with that. So it's something that we really need to consider from a practice perspective in terms of, how can we kind of feed that information to them that they're looking for. Another key characteristic of millennials is they are quite happy to research and shop around. So your pre-boomers and boomers are likely to be more loyal, and, that they would find a medical practice, dental practice, whatever that they're comfortable with, and they will just keep coming back. But millennials are definitely more likely to shop around, and that really leads us into an opportunity and also a threat within your practice. The millennials that you have within your practice, how do you keep them there? How do you keep them engaged and feel like they want to keep coming back to you throughout time? And also, the opportunity is, how can we attract more millennials that are potentially looking at moving from their existing practices for whatever reason? So I think that is a really great opportunity to bear in mind there. So that is really their behavior in regards to using technology is really fueling change across all generations. And whilst the pandemic was, a really kind of interesting time for everybody, one of the benefits that has come out of that is that the older generations are now kind of embracing things like social media. The 65 years plus age group was the biggest age group of growing users on social media over that time during the pandemic. Because
really? So the 65s were So, that's as a percentage, I guess, from what
As a
they were doing.
percentage. Yeah, absolutely. Because it was their way to connect with people, so that they really had no other choice. So it has kind of spurred things along quite a lot in that regard. So in terms of what's really working now, and I know we're really short on time, so I'll give three key things that are working well. Number one is the fact that we are now in an environment where we have to embrace relationship marketing strategies. People want to get to know you. They want to feel like they can trust you before they make that appointment. And people are craving that personal connection. So I really kind of use the terminology. We've moved away from mass marketing where you can just have your practice logo up there and people will kind of, find your website and come or see you on the street and see your signage and those types of things. We've moved into an environment of mass personalization. How can we connect with potential patients in a way that they feel like they can get to know, like, and trust you prior to them making that appointment to see you? So that's point number one. That's from a strategy perspective.
So on that point, Michelle, how do you do that? Is it little video snippets of you? Is it you on your Facebook page saying, this is what our practice is about, come and see us, and maybe getting other doctors in the practice in there as well to talk? Is that the kind of stuff you mean, or am I not of that millennial generation?
No, that is exactly what I mean. And, that kind of brings me into point number two in terms of what's working right now. Social media is exploding, and that is continuing to be the case. And, our marketing costs are they're not getting any bigger because social media is a free environment for you to be able to take advantage of. It basically gives you a direct line of communication between your practice and your practitioners into the palm of the hand of your local community and potential patients. And the social media platforms are evolving very quickly. Facebook have just recently completed a huge overhaul of Facebook business pages. Millennials feel like if you're not on social media, you don't care about them and you're not right for them, because that is where they are going to find out information. And if you're not meeting them there, and if you're just relying on your website to do the heavy lifting in terms of attracting patients, we need to meet people in the platforms where they are consuming content about other things.
And where is that these days? Is it like Facebook is not the original, but it was just, I guess, the first big one really, that MySpace died off pretty quickly and Facebook took over. Is it Instagram? Is it TikTok? Is it whatever else is out there? Clearly I don't know enough of them, but is that where the engagement is? Or is it doing a great little podcast and sending it out to the world like I'm trying to do? What's the other engagement? What platforms are people using?
Yeah, so at the moment, there is a lot of talk about, Facebook is on the decline. Actually, when you look at the stats, about 70% of the Australian population have an active Facebook account. So they are in there and on Facebook, and it is still absolutely the largest platform when it comes to reach within the local community. Instagram is definitely a big one as well. And if I was time poor and just wanted to focus on a couple of platforms, I would definitely be focusing on Facebook and Instagram. And in terms of things like TikTok is definitely growing. It's becoming a bit more mainstream. However, the age of the users of TikTok is still within that kind of 13 to 18 to 25 year bracket. And what we need to do is think about, is that really our target audience? If you're a clinic that helps with sexual health issues, for example, then yes, that might be a great environment for you. But even if you're a dental practice who targets the adolescents for orthodontics, for example, it's probably still the parent
Mom
that
and
is
dad you're going for.
there. So we really want to keep in mind who our target audience is. It's a full-time job to be across all social media accounts. So I wouldn't recommend doing that. It's just not feasible. But you need to go where your audience is. So to do a little bit of research and find out where your ideal target audience is definitely the way to go. And
obviously, just on that, it's talking to someone like you to help generate that strategy, that plan. But is the execution then, is someone like you helping with that, or is it the doctor helping with that, or the dentist helping with that, or the specialist doing that, or the practice manager doing that? Where does that sort of fall to then?
If I had $1 for every time somebody said, "Can you just do my social media? I don't want to do it," I'd be a millionaire. The issue with that is that I can't represent your practice as well as what you can. And when we're talking about mass personalization, people need to see and hear from the doctors and the staff and all of those types of things. So it is really difficult for an external person to kind of replicate that, because I audit many social media accounts every week, and the stuff that is working is the content which creates connection, and that is contact from the practitioners themselves. So whilst I can absolutely help with the strategy, and more importantly, setting up the systems to enable social media to not feel like a hamster wheel that you're running on, because let's face it, you never finish with it, right? It's something that you need to be kind of documenting what you're doing and inviting people into your world. Over time, that's not going to stop. So it just needs to be a system that is created that you can use within your practice that enables you to share that information. If Mrs. Jones comes into your practice, she brings a bunch of flowers because she had an amazing service. That is something that you want to post on social media. It's social proof. We obviously don't give away any privacy details in that regard when we're talking about those types of things. But take a photo of, your reception staff happy, and use a caption that comes from a place of gratitude to say, I know our team works so hard, and when our patients recognize this and it comes back to us in a lovely bunch of flowers, then it makes all that hard work worthwhile. So, we come for that from a place of gratitude, and people want to celebrate you on social media. So it's super important to kind of have that kind of content. And the social media algorithms now are favoring that type of content. And that means that they are programmed when you're getting engagement on your posts. The algorithms are like, okay, this post is good. I'm going to show it to more and more people. And that's how a viral post happens, because a lot of people are interacting with those posts. So we need to make sure that we're creating content that is going to be sticky content that allows for people to not just scroll past, but actually interact with your practice. A great example recently, I'm working with a practitioner who commutes via ferry to her place of work, and a fish jumped out of the ocean literally onto the boat, onto the ferry when she was commuting. So we took a quick photo of her reaction to this fish and posted that. And, it was a one-liner. It was the quickest, easiest social media post to create. It was a one-liner, look who tried to hitch a ride on our ferry commute this morning. The fish was safely returned to the ocean. And people are, laughing and engaging with that. And it humanizes you. We need to create social media content that makes you human, because that's where the connection happens.
It gives that personal touch to it, isn't it? And is it like, I assume it's a fine line between, a personal touch and professional sort of posting. And you obviously want to post positive, happy things, but also show that you're a practice that does what you do? Or is it more about just that personal connection on the socials, and they'll use that to then link through to find out the rest about that you actually specialize in this or you specialize in that? Is it the personal connection that gets the engagement, I guess?
Yeah, I think it's a combination of both. So an ideal social media strategy would have a combination of both that personalized content where you're inviting people into your world, having a laugh with you. But equally, it is super important to have videos, particularly on social media, that position you as the expert. You want to be known as the expert within your local community. And if you want to be known for a certain type of service that you offer, then you need to go out and communicate and educate about that content. So it might be, it might be skin health, and we're in summer now. We are talking about reminding people about staying out of the sun, and booking in for skin checks, those types of things. Show your expertise on that. Help people know that that's what you do, and by promoting that, you will naturally get people say, "Thanks for the reminder. Yeah, I need to come in and do that," and get that checkup booked in. So it's a matter of creating content that positions you as the expert by educating. We don't need to sell when we're a medical healthcare practice at all. If you can educate, people will absolutely come to your practice because you're reminding people about it. And, often people get really, sometimes it's hard to come up with those ideas. A couple of tips on getting those ideas: have a really quick, and this can take a 5-minute brainstorming session with your practitioners and your team. What are the most common questions that we get asked? So if you can go out and proactively answer those questions on social media, and that would create a video. All you need to do is pick up your mobile phone and say, "Look, a really common question we get asked in our practice is about this topic. So these are our thoughts and insights on how to help this issue." And that's it. Short and sharp. Keep it simple. 30 seconds to 30 seconds to about a minute and a half in terms of length, and keep it really conversational. People don't want to see the glossy advertising style of social media anymore. They want to see the real, rough, raw, authentic stuff, even bits where you might be making mistakes, those types of things. They want to see that human aspect of you. So if we're looking at perfection before we start to create, videos or even photos for social media, put that aside. You'll never get it done. It's going to take you too long. You'll never achieve perfection.
It'll cost a fortune.
Yeah, we all say, that's okay. Just be yourself and be your authentic self, because that's where people are going to connect with you.
And I assume I sort of half-asked this before, but I throw quite a few other questions at the same time. Is it the principal doing that? Is it all the doctors doing it? Is it all the staff doing it? It's a combination of reception in some sort of, shoot at one point, or some sort of photo at one point, or getting the flowers. It's the doctor doing "Hey guys, I was on the ferry." It's another doctor doing this. It's just a combination? Is that where you go with it?
Yeah, absolutely. It is definitely a combination. And, we want to see the principle of the practice, of course. However, if there is a practitioner that might be new within your practice and you want to start to build up a patient base for that practitioner, then
so like "Hey guys, coming to meet Dr. So-and-so, blah, blah, blah."
Yeah, absolutely. Or you get them to, give 5 tips on a certain topic that they want to treat patients for, and what their expertise is. And we will attract patients to do that. Now, in all honesty, social media is the biggest opportunity. Another opportunity that's working really well right now, and it's super important to keep those millennials engaged, is also retention strategy when it comes to emailing your patient database and maximizing the value of each patient. And I know, with a lot of medical practices, we don't really like to talk in terms of how much money can we extract from each patient, but we need to look at it from the perspective that from a marketing perspective, so much cheaper to retain existing patients and offer them additional services, not things that they don't need, but educate them on services that they might be going somewhere else for.
Yeah.
So my dentist, only very recently did I find out that they were kind of doing cosmetics and more facial cosmetics, and I had no idea they were doing that. And I may very well have been a patient that was going somewhere else, but I trust my dentist more. So you're missing out on that opportunity, right? You're totally missing out on the opportunity of not educating your patients on the full depth of services that you offer. And email marketing is an ideal way to do that. It is very responsive. Now, let me just set expectations, because Brendan, I always get this comment, hang on, I don't want to spam my patients. They don't like it. I'm not talking about spamming patients. Spamming patients is when you are selling to them and people get their backup. They can sniff that from the subject line. If you are offering value to your patients by solving a pain point of theirs or answering a question that they may otherwise have to phone you for, or look up on social media or get other people's advice for, you are not spamming them. Send them valuable information. Of course, the call to action is always going to be, hey, and by the way, if you need help with this, here's our link to book an appointment, and that's okay. But if you're creating content which educates them, solves their problems, I'm all ears. Now, to set expectations in terms of email marketing, you are likely to send out an email and get open rates. Like a really good open rate might be 50 or 60%. And, I've certainly seen that happen, and I know how to make that happen. But, your open rate might be around 20%, and that's okay as well. That's about the benchmark in terms of what we'd be looking for. But if you were running an ad in a newspaper, not everybody's going to see that either. And if you were putting a letterbox drop in, half the people are going to chuck it out, and the other half, it might be water damage because it rained, or, there is always going to be some kind of wastage, right, on advertising. You're not going to get the information into the hands of everybody, but there will be a segment of your database that is more than happy to open those emails, and they'll be the ones that are booking those appointments and will keep coming back. It's very responsive if you're in a situation perhaps where you needed to fill some appointment times to not waste that. And I know, Brendan, the work that you do with practices to make sure that they're maximizing that income generating time in a practice, we can use marketing to fill those appointments, and email marketing is a really responsive way of doing that. So your results are going to be almost instant in terms of when people are coming in to book those appointments. So if you all of a sudden had lots of availability within your schedule that you want to enable patients to book those appointments and fill that up, email marketing is probably the easiest way to do that.
And I guess there's texts come out as well, but are they as well received? I feel a text is more intrusive personally than an email. Is that the general perception out there?
Correct, it is. And I'm probably one of these people that feel quite strongly about this, unless it is an appointment reminder or some really important information that I may need. It might be, back in COVID times when everything was changing, we had to wear masks, or the social distancing rules were changing. Yeah, I'm happy to see a text message about that. But don't ping me and interrupt what I'm doing for something that is not something that I really need to see. So I would save your SMSs for your recalls and your reminders and the super important information. And I would allow email marketing to take the heavy lifting for the rest of that, because, people can ignore your email. They can unsubscribe if they really have a problem with receiving emails. But it is an environment where you don't want to be too intrusive on that mobile phone, definitely.
Yeah, I'd agree. The other thing we probably haven't really touched on, which is important for all our medical practices, being dental, GPs, specialists, whatever it is. Obviously, we've got some APRA guidelines that it's not. I'm always gung ho on how can we get more, how can we do this, but there is that side we've got to follow. Can you talk us through, I guess, some of that, just the APRA guidelines of what we've got to be careful about when we're doing this sort of stuff?
Yeah, absolutely. I'm a huge advocate of being compliant with those guidelines, and have been working with those guidelines for many years. Those guidelines are in place to protect the general public and, to keep a level of integrity around how health practitioners are marketing. And what we need to do, first of all, don't let the guidelines prohibit you from doing any marketing or kind of scare you off marketing. Be informed. So go onto the APRA website, look up those guidelines. They will always have the most recent copy on their website. So I always send people there. The most recent version was updated in 2020, in December 2020, but those guidelines are there and they're fairly straightforward. Some of the biggest I guess the compliance issues that I see quite regularly are the use of testimonials, and people kind of are a bit confused about the kinds of testimonials that you can and can't use. So in December 2020, APRA released an update of the guidelines, which went into a little bit more detail in regards to testimonials. So they've now defined what a clinical testimonial is, and I would direct everybody to the APRA website to go through that definition. But essentially, it talks about the treatment that the person received. It might have talked about the ailment that they were initially going to their practitioner for, and a few other things that classifies it as a clinical testimonial. Now, under the guidelines, clinical testimonials cannot be used in advertising your practice. And that statement is an important statement because a testimonial can happily exist in a local Facebook group or on Google reviews, because under the national law, that is considered to be someone's opinion and you can't legislate against that. However, if we took a screenshot of a 5-star Google review and put it on our website, which is a tool that we use for advertising, that is when that clinical testimonial is going to then breach the APRA guidelines. So that clear distinction, it's a testimonial, someone's opinion can exist as long as you're not using it for advertising purposes. So, you're in control of your website, you're in control of your Facebook business page. So in those areas, a clinical testimonial is going to breach the guidelines. If, however, there is a testimonial that says, love the staff here, the wait times are always really good, never kept waiting, staff are always polite, all of that kind of stuff, the kind of softer elements to the practice that don't go into the clinical nature, you can use that testimonial because it's not a clinical testimonial. So that's the difference. So I would direct everybody to go to the APRA website, definitely. Familiarize yourself with those, because testimonials are probably the biggest breach that I see. And yeah, just familiarize yourself with that because the guidelines are fairly clear in that regard, and we want to stay compliant.
Yeah, good idea. Absolutely. So yeah, it's interesting. There's quite a distinction, I guess, between a testimonial and a clinical testimonial, which not my area, so I don't necessarily look into that often, admittedly. But yeah, good to know. Can you, if there is a good clinical testimonial, can you say on the website, hey, we've got some really great reviews on the website, go in and check out if you're unsure about us, without actually doing it? Or is that getting too close to the line?
I mean,
I'm putting you under pressure here.
so Brendan, some people are happy to know where the line is, take one step over it, and deal with the consequences. Some people will toe the line, and some people will will kind of not go anywhere near that line. So there's always a grey area. If you were kind of linking to it, I think that would potentially would be an issue. Would it be brought up just for that? You're probably not compliant with a lot of other areas as well. And if it was to go through an audit process, that might be picked up as one thing. It's okay though if you've got a 5-star Google review, or even 4.9, 4.8, all those numbers are all grades. It's okay to say on your website, we've got a 5-star average on our Google review. Just don't link to it. So that in itself is social proof, right? And people know where to find Google reviews. They'll go and have a look.
Yeah. Very good, very good. Look, I do appreciate your time, Michelle. I know you're very busy as well, and we're into the new year and things are happening, but really appreciate you coming on. I got a lot out of it, which was really good. It's a good reminder, use the socials, use the emails, use the texts, use them in the right way. Make sure you're APRA compliant. But the key, I guess, has to be consistency. Just get out there and do it and start marketing your practice a bit better when that's what you're trying to do. If you're trying to attract patients, well, that's what you need to do. Michelle, if people want to get in contact with you, which I'm sure they would, how would they go about that? What's the best way to contact you? I'll put some details in the notes, but what's the best way to contact?
Absolutely. Just email me at info@marketingpractices.com.au, or you can go to my website. You'll find me also on social media. So any of those,
I hope so.
Any of those outlets, you are welcome to get in touch. More than happy to help. It's something that lights me up. I get really excited about all this stuff. So more than happy to help.
Great. Thanks very much. Thanks for coming on. And if anyone else wants to jump on, follow the links on this podcast. There's a couple of Medico ones coming out in a row, which I'm sure the Medicos will be jumping onto. But there's obviously the rest of the podcast series as well, where we're talking about a lot of things we deal with here on a day-to-day basis at Prosperity. So thanks everyone for joining us, and thanks Michelle for coming on. Thanks so much for your time. Really appreciate it. Thanks for joining us for today's podcast. Hopefully you liked it, and if so, please give us a few stars, like and share. And if you'd like to follow the series, please subscribe and pass any information on to your friends as well if you think they might like it. For more information about who we are, head to prosperity.com.au and follow the links.